which is very funny.
All right. I think that we are live.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah?
Hello,
Cool.
everybody. Welcome to GVI. I'm Becca Toms from heartCTgrown, and I am excited to be joining you all via the interwebs at Green Village Initiative in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm here with Catherine, that one, you know, and Ellie here, and we're all trying to be socially distanced and all that jazz. So we're a little bit apart. We got our masks on. Feel free to say in the comments if you can't hear us, we'll talk louder. And of course, if you have any questions while we're talking to Ellie and Catherine about GVI, about farming, about anything that is going on here or is going on in your own garden at home, feel free to type those in the comment section and I'll make sure to send those questions over to the two of them. We might have another friend joining us from Park City Harvest. His name is Sean. And he'll be jumping in on the video a little bit later, but we're excited for everybody that's joining us. So I'm going to be quiet now and let these two guys talk because they know what's up. So Ellie and Catherine, if you want to go ahead and give us a brief overview of what GVI is, mission, why you're here, what is going on, that we have a whole bunch of awesome raised beds in the middle of Bridgeport.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, my name is Catherine. I am the farm manager here at Reservoir Community Farm, which is one of the 4 programs that GVI offers. Green Village Initiative has this farm site in addition to a school garden program that helps facilitate school gardens all over Bridgeport elementary schools. We also run a community garden program that has 20-something community gardens all over the city, including right here at Reservoir. In addition to the farm, we have Reservoir Community Garden, which is the largest community garden that we run. So 40 gardeners and farmers grow alongside me here at this site. Lastly, of our 4 programs is the Youth Leadership Program. Every year we invite 8 to 12 Bridgeport youth to come and work at the farm here. We offer them employment and as many as enrichment opportunities as we can, and they give so much more back with their humor and wit and complaining about weeding, which I totally understand. And then many of them continue on in our youth fellowship program, which is a year-round program where they develop personal projects that give back to Bridgeport. So we love to see them sort of develop their skills and grow into their own as entrepreneurs and farmers here in Bridgeport.
And we do all of this to serve a mission of cultivating food, knowledge, leadership, and community in Bridgeport in service of creating a more just food system in our city that we hope will radiate out into the rest of our region, our state, and our nation and world. And what I love about our programs that Catherine was the kind of outlining for us is the way in which we can watch people move through them. Youth who come through our school garden programs can go on to, when they're in their teens, join us back on the farm as in a paid opportunity through the youth program. We've had youth program participants actually become farm staff in future years and seasons on the farm, and then have farm staff actually go on to own or to rent for free our community plots throughout our city because they just love growing food and understand like how food and growing it is really part of the revolution that we're trying to build by unbuilding an unjust food system. So what I love is that we've kind of got this cyclical web of programming that I think really holds the vision and future food system that we want to see, that's full of farmers, entrepreneurs, neighbors, children, everyone in Bridgeport coming together regardless of income, race, orientation, and whatever status you are, to be in a space where we can grow and be together in a way that really elevates our entire city and helps us break narratives that hold us back and keep us in a place of food injustice.
I want to add really quickly that the food that we grow here at Reservoir Community Farm, we sell at a farm stand on site here, which is now a Bridgeport farmers market that where we have all Bridgeport farmers growing and selling with us. In addition to Reservoir Community Farm, we have Park City Harvest, which is a Bridgeport-run, Black-owned farm here, as well as Blissful Awakening, which is another Bridgeport-owned and operated farm here in Bridgeport.
Great, thank you. So, you know, talking about Bridgeport a lot. Nice, love that Bridgeport pride. But I guess because we're in Bridgeport, which is a city, I would definitely say that GVI kind of counts as an urban farm. Would that be correct in you guys' opinion?
Yeah, definitely. We are here on Reservoir Ave with trucks and buses and cars going past us. We are on a site that used to be a parking lot many decades ago. Over time, native weeds grew up, cracking through all of the cement, and we put raised beds down on top of that land. So every year when it freezes and thaws, we get more chunks of asphalt coming up to us as we return this land slowly to soil and grass and dirt.
And what do you feel like when people say urban farm, like what does that actually mean?
I think urban is it's meant to mean city, of course, and then there's words like peri-urban, which is kind of like a cute, fashionable word for like suburban in some cases, although I'm sure my planning friends would yell at me for making that assumption. But I think urban farming is really farming that's happening in a city, though I think that when you're thinking about equitable distribution of land and the food that's being grown on that land, not all urban farms in my mind are doing the same service. So what I love about our farm, which Catherine named, is that we're growing food in our community and for our community, and all food that we don't sell at farm stand gets donated or sold to other Bridgeport pantries or food markets. So we're keeping this Bridgeport grown, local, nutrient dense food like in our city for folks that need it most. And I think it's important that also when we say urban, that there is like kind of a coded term, especially in like white spaces for grant writing, where urban is used to kind of be code for Black. And I think that's an important thing to actually name, in that we want to have more Black owned farms and farmers in our food system. And so having a farm within a city that's on transportation routes and easily walkable and super diverse neighborhoods like the Reservoir neighborhood is really important to me and to us at GVI. So that's my take.
Yeah, and I think when you're in a city setting, it's really unusual to be able to eat food that has almost 0 food miles on it. Most of your food is coming from at very least the countryside, you know, a few dozen miles away, and probably from all the way across the country or Mexico or Canada. So having food that hasn't had to travel super long distances is a luxury that unfortunately not everyone can access right now. So we try to bring some of that availability to Bridgeport through our gardening program.
Sure. Cool. And as you can see, we have Sean here that's made his way from Park City Harvest. Glad to have him.
How you doing?
I'm glad you could join us. This is awesome. So, just do you want to tell us a little bit about Park City Harvest and tell us loud and clear, because, you know,
Okay.
sound.
Yeah, Sean, Park City Harvest. We're a for-profit market business or market farming business. So we have a local field out here up the road in right over the Trumbull line, and pretty much we're just 2 African American farmers, and we do urban farming. So we grow produce for sale, and also just to supplement everything we don't grow, we purchase from other local farmers and resell as well, just to kind of keep the economy going, keep all local farmers still in business.
Awesome, awesome. keeping local farmers in business and, you know, bringing food to the people. You know, that's what it's about. That's awesome. Cool. So, kind of going back to some of the stuff that we brought up, you know, GVI seems to have a real strong food justice, social justice bend in their work. Why did GVI decide to do that sort of work when creating a farm? Why not just grow food? Like, why is social justice and food justice important?
Well, I'll try to get a little. So, so when creating the farm, that actually wasn't GVI's main focus. GVI initially began as a network of gardens all over the Fairfield County area, and building the farm was a way to kind of be a hub and a locus for the 23 school gardens and 12 community gardens that GVI had already built or merged with over the years. And it was really intentionally in 2017 that we felt that the work had been moving towards social and really racial justice and incorporating that into our understanding of hunger and why it exists and why we needed gardens and activism to fight it in the first place. And that to do this work without really kind of naming the underlying causes of hunger and the inequities in our food system that are really like the foundation of that is racism, was to A, whitewash the work that we do in Bridgeport, but B, it would also only really seek to serve the nonprofit and like keeping us really comfortable. And so I think that it's important to kind of name that we are not perfect and we're not and we're never going to be done. I think this is work that has to keep being unrooted and uprooted in us, but that we're trying, and that work has to kind of intentionally grow from somewhere. So we're trying to do our best to incorporate that and know that when serving a community that's as diverse as Bridgeport, which is like, I believe still like a 33 like breakdown on the census, which is in its own way problematic. But anyway, in such a diverse city, you can't ignore the factors of why you're there, who you are when you show up, and how you're doing that work. So in incorporating it kind of later on into our work, I'm glad that we did it, and I think that we can do better in the future, and I'm looking forward to just more conversations as we move through and move into new leadership spaces within our own organization to hear how we can be doing better by Bridgeport in the justice work that we're trying to accomplish and achieve.
Sweet. So, since we do have Park City Harvest here, how do Park City Harvest and GVI kind of mesh? I know that Park City Harvest is at the farmers market y'all have on Saturday, but are there more connections that you guys have with each other?
Yes, like you said, we are at the farmers market every Saturday. Also, as well, the other half of Park City Harvest, my co-owner Richard, he is the assistant farm manager here at GVI. And as well, throughout the year, GVI and Park City Harvest will collaborate, whether it's different seminars or workshops that, you know, Park City Harvest will help facilitate or teach. And also as well, just physically being on site, just helping out any of the community farmers that come here with any questions they have, whether it's regarding pest management, which crops to plant at certain times, or any type of pretty much any issues that they may have with the crops that they're currently growing, and you know, any other questions as far as how they can go about getting more access to the fresh produce.
Yeah.
Whether it be informing them about the, you know, farmers market nutrition program, or any other way that they'll be able to afford any type of produce.
And Sean and Richard just hired 2 amazing young women who came from our youth leadership program, Ajane and Amory, to staff, and like that is an overlap that I love, because it's kind of what I was talking about with the cycle before, where these young, amazing teenage farmers who came through our program are now getting actual entrepreneur training and leadership and mentorship from Sean and Richard every single Saturday, and learning the ropes of a farm business, which is really awesome.
Ah, that is awesome. So, speaking of students, as you all may know, this is Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids Week.
Woo!
Yeah, so super excited that you guys are involved with youth, because I think when we say Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids, we may just think of like first graders in a classroom or something, but it really applies to kids from 1 year old all the way to 18, because this is impacting all of their lives. So this is obviously, a great connection that connects youth with food, but why is connecting youth with food so important? Why is Connecticut Grown for Connecticut youth so important? Anybody?
Okay, I can start. For me, it's most important just because I have 3 young children myself, and also as well, we feel it's important because from youth that have come through the GVI youth program, from the interactions that they've had with, Rich, and some as well with myself, is some of them and a lot of them, they don't know where their produce actually comes from or how it even grows, and we feel that that's an important aspect of it, because on the opposite end of it as farmers, when we price certain items or certain products, it also goes into the pricing of it, also goes into the amount of labor that it takes for each product. So for something, as simple as the easiest one that I come to is garlic. For something as simple that everybody takes for granted as garlic that they use all the time, your local garlic and your fresh organic garlic, it's more expensive, and it's so expensive because of the amount of labor that it takes. So, working with and working through a program like GVI, we're able to, have access to those youth individuals to where we can show them from, the beginning of fall is where you would plant the garlic and you wouldn't harvest it all the way until early summer. And there's multiple steps and processes that take place in between time, along with, a 2-week drying and curing time before the product is actually sellable. So, kind of full circle, along with, hiring graduates from GVI's youth program, we're able to show them that and show them, the aspect of business to the point of not just growing the crops, but how we price them, why we price them that way. So to me, crops for the youth, it's important just because it's like I said, a lot of the youth, they don't know or even understand where their produce comes from, how it grows. We've had, individuals that think strawberries come from a tree, versus off of a vine, and then it opens up another lane of an educational opportunity, because then we can show and explain to them not only does, it grow on vine, but explain to them how it grows and how that plant actually multiplies, so that way they can, also in turn learn the aspect of business of how you can turn one plant into 4 or into 2 at a very little cost and produce a profit. So it's important because, it shows you that there's another way and there's another outlet for them. Even if you're just looking to produce some income, it shows them that there's alternate lanes and alternate routes that they may not have even thought of.
Yeah, to me, the food system is so complicated and at the same time, like, so pervasive in every part of our life. Everyone has to eat. And I was a youth of 20 before, like, some of the pieces about our very complicated and in many ways very flawed food system started to click. So I think getting the message to kids as early as possible about, like, this is where your food comes from, this is what it looks like on a plant, and this is why it matters, because these are the impacts, environmental, social, economic, that food has on all parts of life. And I've become so interested in food systems because they really do reach out and touch, almost any aspects you can think of. And so kids being able to sort of key into that and understand what they're seeing in grocery stores, what they're seeing at a farmer's market, and then how that also connects to their body and the nutrition that they're putting into themselves. You know, it's really easy to be a kid and say, I hate all vegetables and I'm never going to eat anything green, but that's not going to serve them well in the long run. So connecting, I think, giving kids the connections between farm and food is a really great way to make them excited about things that they might not otherwise be willing to eat.
So we talked about how you guys are involving youth in the work, like teens, but what about elementary school students? Are they coming to the farm at all? Are you engaging with them at any level?
Yeah, this current season, this pandemic has not allowed us to have a school garden program that had field trips come onto site. So we are currently kind of in a little bit of a holding space, offering virtual offerings and virtual farm tours. But traditionally, in the last 5 years of GVI, we have had field trips on our farm. We try to do somewhere between 10 and 20 with public elementary schools in Bridgeport, where young folks can come with their teachers in classes and have, we do a series of stations so that they can connect with soil, with bees, talk a little bit more deeply about compost, which is a lot more fun for little kids than it usually is for the teachers as they dig through for food scraps. We do some nutrition-related games typically, and it's a hands-on learning day. And so knowing that we've had hundreds of little ones come through is in and of itself really rewarding and dope. But I think what's even cooler is kind of the cultural aspect. Getting back to the diversity of the Bridgeport public school system, we have over 60 languages spoken in the Bridgeport public school system. So that just like scratches the surface of how amazingly diverse and incredible the children are who are coming in and being fed each day on what's a 100% free and reduced lunch system in our city. And so to be able to make those connections to food on our farm is great on a lot of levels that we were talking about before, from the space of maybe empowering knowledge so we can empower choice. But what I really love is this memory I have distinctly of 2 years ago when we had a bunch of fourth graders come, I believe from Curiel School, and we were transplanting collards with a part of the class that was ESL class, and one of the teachers was across from me and she was helping some of the students to transplant, and I was about to correct her way of doing it when one of the students who actually spoke to her a little bit in Spanish and English like showed her, and when I asked him like, how do you know how to do that, how to correct that, he was like, oh, my grandmother, like, we garden all the time in my country, like this is nothing, like, you know. And so it like kind of upends this like value system we think we have, and instead I was just offering him like a space to show off a skill he already had, because again the food system is complex, and again like really young people have that power, and I think that's sort of the excitement of field trips, is that it's not a one-way street in any way, shape, or form for me or for the students or the teachers.
That's awesome. I love it. I know that a lot of the talk around CTgrown for CT Kids Week has been about food in cafeterias, which is super important. Like, we need to get that highly nutritious food that's locally grown into cafeterias so that these kids, whether they're on free lunches or they're not, have healthy, nutritious food in their bodies so that they can be ready to learn, ready to grow, and participate in the world around them. So it's awesome to also talk about kids interacting with farms, though. That is just as important and an integral part of this week, and a lot of the work that some of the agencies that are involved in CTgrown for CT Kids Week are part of. So talking a little bit about kids again, because it's just fun.
Love them.
I love that story that you shared, but also just wondering, I mean, I think you, Catherine, were talking about how some kids just will not eat vegetables, quote unquote. And then you bring them to a farm, and they just keep putting things in their mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you guys see as some of the most popular stuff that you see kids, all of you, that you see kids really excited to eat when they are interacting with the farm?
The trick is to make as many vegetables as possible purple. And this one of the secrets about food that I didn't really even know till I started farming is that most vegetables come in any color of the rainbow, and we just eat the same old boring orange carrots because that's what they grow in monocultures. But you can get purple carrots, you can get purple string beans, you can get purple peppers, and it makes kids much more interested in them all of a sudden, I have to say.
Yes, to me, purple is my favorite color. We have some, they're called Islander peppers. They're like a purplish lilac color. I've been asked multiple times to describe the taste and everything, and the best way I could describe it is it tastes purple. And strangely, I mean, it's the younger range of individuals that ask, but they always tend to agree, and they say, like, you know what, you're right, it tastes purple. But yeah, from my experience, the most thing is like easy to pick fruits, whether it be cherry tomatoes, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, especially when they come to a farm. Blueberries also as well. When any young child comes to a farm and they can pick something right off the plant and eat it, you see the light click in their head. So if you have access to an orchard anywhere, I would definitely take them apple picking, peach picking, plums, and anything like that. Kids tend to love the fruits, and being in Connecticut, we're limited by the seasons, but if you plan it out right, you can always catch strawberries, blueberries. You can catch blackberries and raspberries twice in the season, and then there's also apples, peaches, apricots, plums, pears, all of the tree fruits, cherries. So there's plenty of local farms that offer all of those and offer the pick your own options. So that's always a fun trip, and it's always a good trip to even if you don't have like a large space, or even if you don't have the space or the interest in it yourself, but you at least want to get your kids interested in what they eat, where it comes from, how it grows. Pick your own orchards and farms are always the best introduction to it. And over here at GVI, they do have a lot of those plants and trees. So whenever they're in season, they do make the public aware. So that way, that's always a good time to come in, visit, see what's going on, see what's growing, and be able to have a little afternoon snack.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, I mean, Sean, you did a great job helping me out in my segue to talk about what are the sort of things that you can grow here. So when I say that, I mean in Bridgeport, but also in Connecticut. I think people don't know the vast amount of variety of things that we can grow. Like one of my favorite Connecticut grown things every summer is peaches. Cannot get enough of Connecticut grown peaches. And I get so upset when the season ends, but we're not going to talk about it. And people associate peaches with Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They somehow staked that claim, and we're having a hard time wrestling away from them. But one day, Connecticut peaches will be known throughout the world. So what's the range? Like, what are some things that you all grow at your farms that maybe people don't expect, or maybe that people do expect? Tell us about what you're growing.
Well, before I let the actual farmers get to it, I'll say that one thing that I love is the unexpected that you can really only get at your local farm. I'm gonna wait for that school bus to pass. And by the unexpected, I really mean the things that we're maybe not always purposefully growing, but growing beside. So I'm talking about purslane and lemon sorrel and chickweed. And I think you have to go to a local farm or talk to your local farmer to A, have somebody help you identify it if you don't know what those are, but B, like, go harvest them, usually through free weeding and labor, because these are things that you can really only get locally and fresh this way. And I think that's really magical, because that's my segue between the kids portion and this, is that trying out foods that that have really strong flavors, like lemon sorrel or borage, is a really magical way to tie young ones through a dare to the earth. And also it's a great way to get them interested in the work of weeding around plants, and really thinking about how these things grow and what competition in nature looks like. But I'll leave it to the farmers to talk about the crops they're actually trying to grow, and we're not trying to just clean out.
Well, in my opinion, we can grow just about anything here in Connecticut. It's just the amount of time that you do have to grow it. I've seen and I've known some people to even grow lemons and oranges and things of that nature, just because those type of trees, they don't need to be, 15, 20 feet tall to produce. So, of course, as expected, mid to late spring, all through summer, you can have it outside. You would put it in a pot, of course, because during the fall and the winter, you would bring it indoors. But things that, your average farmer on a yearly basis would grow that some people may not expect is, I would say, watermelons. Everybody wants, the season turns, temperature gets better, and it becomes, barbecue season, for lack of a better term. Everybody always goes looking for watermelon, and they want the seeded watermelon. They want the watermelon like naturally grown and everything like that. But nobody goes to think that that watermelon is grown, in your state, let alone for some people, depending where they're at in your city. So I would say watermelon would be one. But yeah, we can grow just about anything. It's just about how you do it. For most plants, if it does require like a longer growing season outdoors, you would just start them off earlier in the year indoors in a controlled environment. But yeah, I would say my go-to unexpected one would be watermelons. Everybody expects that to be, similar to peaches, would expect that to be grown somewhere down south.
Two of our most popular crops here at Reservoir are collard greens and also okra, which are two huge staples in southern United States cuisine. But they're also massively popular among the residents in this community who shop with us. And so okra especially is this crazy looking plant that has these big, beautiful, tropical looking flowers, some of which are right behind us here. And that is definitely something that people don't always expect to see, especially someone like me who was born and raised in Connecticut. That wasn't part of my diet growing up. So it's really exciting to learn from people who feel really close to this vegetable about how they prepare it and what it means to them and their families.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I made all of heartCTgrown family on social media read my love letter to okra a couple weeks ago, because my family is partially from the south, so gotta love that okra.
Yeah.
Oh, quick fact on not the okra, but on the collard greens. Although it is a southern staple, collard greens themselves in the culinary world, based off of the taste and the time it takes to cook them and the way to cook them, they're actually better once they've been hit by a frost itself. So although it is a southern staple, it's the best collard greens and the best flavored collard greens straight off of the plant you would find grown in the northern region, especially somewhere like Connecticut.
Yep.
So all of our okra plants collard green plants can go on all the way to, late November, and depending on how the fall winter season is going, even December, they'll be, as long as you avoid any pest problems, they'll be good on the plant, and that's
how do you then put those beds to rest once it's totally done growing, since it's so late in the season?
Well, do you mind if I jump in? And then you might have a different answer, Sean.
Yeah,
But
okay,
what I do is that if I, in the past we've left them, sometimes some of them through the winter, and then in the spring, they actually regrow and still have like the spring kale and collard leaves are so tender. You can just eat them like while you're doing farm work and go over and just eat them raw. They're so sugary from all the sugar being stored in those roots. So I like to leave some for that purpose and for field trips so that kids can taste. And we cut off the yellow flowers, eat those too. But when ripping out, because you can put things in a cycle, it's about rotation cropping. So I could either give it a rest and put it to cover crop for a couple months and then do a late season crop there if I'm feeling like I'll be able to get a hold on it. Or I would choose the two, because it took so much out of the ground for those collards, I would choose something that's like a little bit easier and probably like a root crop to do next. Though my order might be wrong, so I want to give it to Sean if he has any insights.
Yeah, if we were to leave the collards in there, over the winter season, for me personally, I would, by the time like a heavy frost, or we always keep track of the weather, so if we see the weather forecast for the next week to 2 weeks, we're in close to frost or freezing temperatures, at nighttime on a steady basis. At that point, you harvest whatever you have, and you'd be able to put the bed to rest at that point, because the ground itself would still be workable to a certain extent. It is too late in the season at that point for the most time to plant any cover crops, but you would be able to still pull the plants out, turn the soil over, and then at least mulch with some type of partially or completely decomposed organic matter, just to get the bed ready for the next spring. But also similar to what Ellie was saying, if we do wait till November or anything like that, then we would already have a fall crop or a pulled crop plan. So when we do pull them all in November, we do have seedlings already ready to go, such as any type of other leafy greens, pretty much. So any type of lettuces, kales, or anything like that, that would be able to you at least get a small harvest before the end of the season. But the best option would be if you pull them late in that season, would just be to turn the soil over and cover it with some already decomposed organic matter.
Yeah, thank you.
Leaving until the spring is kind of fun in its own way, because you just never know what's going to happen, and just like the stress of seeing that many aphids on one plant, like in April, you're like, whoa, I forgot what the farming stress felt like.
I wasn't ready for that till July.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
So for people out there that may not know some of these terms, can you guys explain, like, what do you mean when you say cover crops? What do you mean put the garden to bed or put the farm to bed? What are aphids? I mean, aphids are little tiny bugs that you don't want, but more importantly, tell us about these practices that you're talking about that you implement on your farms.
Yeah, so throughout the growing season, the plants that we grow are extracting certain nutrients from the soil that turn them into vegetables. So it's super important to use the winter as sort of a regenerative season for your soil, and let it have a rest period, so to speak. So cover crop is often like grains or grasses that you plant in the fall season that will overwinter to some extent, and these are varieties of plants that will put nitrogen back into the soil so that it's ready in the spring to be sort of flipped over, decomposed in, and help your new plantings grow with the proper amount of nutrients. If you aren't cover cropping, you can also mulch, which is a great way to sort of put a protective layer over your soil of organic material that has similarly adds back key components to your soil over the winter and protects it from like runoff and being drained with the water. What's the word for that?
Soil erosion.
Thank you, soil erosion.
Yes, that's cover cropping there. So you plant something that will be able to establish a root system throughout the winter time, so that way you don't lose any soil from, snow melting or, evaporation or the wind blowing or anything like that. So you have something in there to kind of hold the soil in place. And, at the end of the cover cropping, so in the beginning of the spring, whatever grains or grasses that you would plant that Captain described, you would flip those over. So in a sense, you would just pretty much take a shovel, you dig down into the soil, and you completely flip it over. So that grass, you would just turn it upside down on itself, and the actual blades of grass or grains would break down into the soil and add nitrogen back into it. So that would be cover cropping there. And as just on a side note, on the aphids, like you said, the aphids, they're just a small tiny insect that they actually suck nutrients from the plant leaves itself, and they I'm trying to think of the term.
Honeydew?
Yes, they secrete a liquid called honeydew, and that's something that's extremely sought after by ants. So that's one way, for pest identification. If something's going on with the leaves of the plants, if you think it's aphids, if you see a lot of ants, and they're not walking on any type of closed flowers, because some ants, they will walk on the closed flowers, because what they're doing is actually eating the wax and the secretions off of that. So they're helping. But if there are no closed flowers and no flowers at all, you see a lot of ants on there. They tend to farm the aphids.
Yeah.
So they'll bring the aphid eggs from the soil to the top of the plant, so that way they can hatch, eat the juices from your plants, secrete the honeydew, and then the ants eat the honeydew. So if you see a lot of ants, no flowers, 9 times out of 10 you probably do have aphids.
I've heard them referred to as like rancher ants.
Yes.
Because like they're not, the ants aren't like farming, they're like ranching because they have like livestock, and their livestock is the aphids. It's like really, it's super cool.
I'm really excited, everybody, because I literally just learned that along with all of you. So